The folk hero did it again. The Gardner Minshew. Welcome in the beginning of the Ben Maller Show. We are in the air everywhere. The vast Fox Sports Radio Network emanating live. Now, we handicapped the Thursday night game, not that you were paying attention, on a previous show, Jacksonville and Tennessee. And this is not a matchup you get all excited about, unless you've got some skin in the game. And we discussed, and I thought Jacksonville was the right side of the game, a home dog against Tennessee. But they played a lot better than I expected. That was a dominant defensive performance. And Gardner Minshew, 20-7. You didn't see the game. 20-7, Jacksonville won. You didn't miss much.
Duval!
Yeah, that's my man Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, that's right. Duval. Yeah. So Gardner Minshew, who was hyped up, and they were trying to sell him, and he delivered. He delivered early. He really did deliver early in the game. The first half was solid quarterback play by Gardner Minshew. In the second, the numbers weren't terrible, but at halftime, Gardner Minshew had really been great, really been wonderful. Had a couple of touchdown passes and all that. The rookie out of Washington State, 204 yards. I say Washington State. He went to like 7 different schools. A couple of touchdowns, no interceptions, completed 67% of his passes. He was not sacked. And I often talk about negative plays, bad plays, and how that's big for a quarterback. You have to limit your bad plays. And typically the team that has the quarterback that makes the most negative plays wins the game. Gardner Minshew had just 10 negative plays. That's about as low as I can recall for a quarterback recently. And they have 10 negative plays. And that's great. For comparison's sake, Marcus Mariota, the embattled Tennessee Titans quarterback, had 27 bad plays. He had 17 more. And bad plays are classified as incompletions, fumbles, interceptions, and sacks.
Garbage.
Yeah, not good. So the question, what are your big takeaways from the Thursday night Jacksonville win, their first win? They are now 1-2 on the year. Tennessee also 1-2 after that big opening weekend win against the Cleveland Browns, and the Titans were all fired up, and they're like, hey, it's a good football team. Okay. Well, now you've lost back-to-back to teams in your division. That ain't good. That is not what you're looking for. That's a bad job by them. But my thoughts, you've got Surgical, the App Store, and Wally Pipped. You've got those 3 things, and we will put all this together. Now, in Gardner we trust. All right, I'd like to turn this into a Sports Talk Radio confessional for a minute. All right? I'm going to confess right now. My name is Ben Maller, and I am addicted to Minshew mania. I have come down with an extreme. It's in my bloodstream. This Gardner Minshew. There's something about this guy I like. He's different. He's unique. Were you not impressed? How are you not impressed? Well, if you watched that game, Minshew is a cross between the anchor man, the legend of Ron Burgundy, and Ben Stiller from Dodgeball. The way he looks, and also like just in general, any 1970s cliche character, he's cartoonish. In an era of the mostly robotic quarterback, except for Cam Newton, who are all pretty much cut out of the same cloth, it's the 1970s show for Gardner Minshew. He's got the bushy porn mustache. He's got an oddball, crazy town name. That stuff got me interested. However, it's his play that is getting me to fully jump on the Minshew mania bandwagon. And there's only a few seats left, by the way. Even with the incompetent receiving core in Jacksonville, with hands of stone, Minshew has been manna from heaven. And he did not dominate the game as far as like 500 yards passing and 7 touchdowns or anything like that. But that was more of a byproduct. His numbers not being 300 yards, which is a pretty much a benchmark you look for, and 3 touchdowns, but more of a byproduct of soft receivers, hands of stone receivers, dropping touchdowns in the end zone. It was a mess. I counted at least five dropped passes by Jacksonville wide receivers. So that would tell you that he finished with 10 incomplete passes, Minshew. He should have had less than that. Should have had half of that. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. But the word is surgical precision. And Gardner Minshew appears to possess the most lethal weapon of any quarterback. accuracy. That is it. That's surgical precision. Several NFL teams ought to fire their entire scouting department. How did this guy slip through the cracks? They didn't, everyone says, I need a quarterback. Oh, there's a shortage of quarterbacks and blah, 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 blah. This guy worked out for these NFL teams, and they got these guys they draft who toss beanbags, and Minshew is right under their nose, and they're like, well, we're okay. Mike Leach, I give him credit. We goofed on him before the draft when Mike Leach went on this rant about how why is Gardner Minshew not in the NFL? He's going to be a good NFL player and all this. And he was, so far he's right. It's only a couple of weeks, blah, 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 blah. Well, it's 3 games into a 16-game season, so they only play 13 more games, Jacksonville. And I like the charisma. I like the pizzazz. Didn't get much help from his offensive teammates. Talk about saving your day. Leonard Fournette was going to be fined a game check for absenteeism, the way he played for the first 3.5 quarters of this game. He had 11 carries for -8 yards. Leonard Fournette, the same guy that looked like He-Man in college, he had 11 carries for -8 yards, and then he broke it. Went 69 yards, which makes Gronk happy somewhere, and did not get a touchdown, but he carried it in the red zone. And that one run flipped his stat sheet. The entire statistical sheet for Leonard Fournette was turned upside down in a positive way, and it looks like, if you didn't watch the game, he averaged 4.4 yards per carry. But really, he averaged like -1.3 yards per carry for most of the game, but that's why you actually have to pay attention here. Now, on the flip side, Jacksonville's defense put up an oil painting. That was reminiscent of when Jacksonville had a very good defense a couple years ago and got to the AFC Championship game. Calais Campbell was the force multiplier ×2. Guy had 7 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 5 quarterback hits, 3 sacks, and a partridge in a pear tree. Have a night. Jacksonville had 9 sacks, 13 quarterback hits against Marcus Mariota. And it's one game. You say, well, it doesn't matter. It's not the 85 Bears or the 2000 Ravens or the 2013 Legion of Boom from the Seahawks. But for one night, it was. For one night, they played at that level. That was a kind of a defensive effort that you would have seen from one of those great all-time defensive teams. But they did it the entire year. And in part B here, the Tennessee Titans. Now, the better story is in the losing locker room. I buried the lead, my man. That's a bad job. The better story is in the losing locker room. And Tennessee, I like the Minshew story, but what's going on with the Titans here? All right, this is fancies themselves a playoff team. I know it's a short week, and you have the built-in fall guy of having to play Thursday night NFL games, but they were a no-show. They were like Leonard Fournette was for Jacksonville, but several players on offense and defense. It was a mistake-filled mess. And Marcus Mariota, who certainly, in the eyes of NFL scouts, is a better quarterback than Gardner Minshew, he was outshined, though, by Minshew. And there's a bunch of excuses I've read. It's not Mariota's fault and all that, but do the Titans have a Marcus Mariota problem? I believe they do. Now, again, it wasn't all his fault here, but the guy is just not very good. Occasionally he'll put up a good performance, but he's not. And yeah, the blocking was no good. I get that. Mariota was tentative. And you expect at some point here that this continues. You've lost back-to-back divisional games. There will be a aha moment in Tennessee, and they're like, well, let's just see what happens. Let's see if suddenly our offensive line gets better if we put Ryan Tannehill in there. And then you also have the officials. And that was a big story. We'll talk more about that later because people are buzzing about all that. But the first half in particular, it was penalty to the left, penalty to the right, penalty up the middle. The final totals, the Tennessee Titans and the Jacksonville Jaguars combining for 13 penalties for 131 yards. But most of those were from the Titans, who had 9 penalties and 101 yards, which sounds like a lot, but it's not anywhere close to the Cleveland Browns, who had 18 penalties in their first game of the year. Here's Mike Vrabel pointing out that they might want to spend some time with the officials.
And we're going to have to figure out what they're looking at and what they're calling. Whether we agree with it or not, we have to, to make sure that we're playing fast and aggressive without fouling. And tonight we weren't able to do that.
Yeah, that's an understatement. That's what we call downplaying it. Here's more. Marcus Mariota. We just talked about Mariota and his dog food performance there for the Tennessee Titans, and he is yet to commandeer control of the quarterback position for the Titans, even though he's still the guy. The numbers aren't great. Here's Mariota pointing out that losing 2 games in a row, not exactly what the doctor ordered.
It's a gut check. I mean, to be honest with you, you lose 2 division games within a span of 5 days. It's a wake-up call.
Okay. Wake up. Here's some smelling salts. Wake up. Yeah, exactly. All right, here's one more from Marcus Mariota, and this is the Komodo dragon in the room. Don't get too close because that saliva will kill you. Here is Marcus Mariota pointing out that he says, what can you do? What kind of magic tricks can you figure out here to get better?
I don't know.
Oh, no, he doesn't know.
I got to find it out because I can't start
know.
games that way. I didn't help our team at all in the first half. Didn't give our guys chances to make plays. And I felt I needed to go out and try to just muster something together.
Yeah. Well, he did put mustard out there because that was pretty mustard-like. Marcus Mariota. Well, Mike Vrabel needs to visit the App Store. And, and I have a problem with one of my apps. I go to the App Store and I get, they have bug fixes there. Mariota's got some bugs. He's got some glitches and some performance improvements. He needs that. And we shouldn't also, in that same conversation, it's not all Marcus Mariota. What happened to Derrick Henry? Didn't he set like a record for rushing yards last year against the Tennessee Titans? He averaged 2.6 yards per carry.
Who?
Derrick Henry. Come on, man. What's up with that? He's the bell cow back of the Tennessee Titans. It's running into a lot of congestion on the 405 freeway there. There was a lot of cars. There was a lot of traffic. It was rush hour, and there was a lot of traffic there. It was a big problem. All right, last thing here. So the NFL Network crew, which is really just the Fox crew, but that game's so bad they just put it on the NFL Network because Fox is like, I don't want to broadcast that. Come on, Jacksonville and Tennessee, put that on your little channel there, the state-run NFL TV. So that's what they did. But the NFL Network with Joe Buck and Aikman, they did a few minutes on Nick Foles, and this was supposed to be his team in Jacksonville. There he was. That shot of him on the sidelines, and he had a jacket on, a shirt, and the whole thing. He was Jacksonville's logo, and his arm was in a sling, and from his broken collarbone. A very sad-looking Nick Foles. You couldn't help but think. And while Joe Buck and Troy Aikman and the crew there were regaling stories, Aaron Andrews, about how much they love Nick Foles. What a great guy Nick Foles is. You couldn't help but think, watching Nick Foles and watching Gardner Minshew, that Foles is in the process of getting Wally pipped. That this is, it's an outdated reference now, but Wally Pipp famously called in sick with a headache with the Yankees in the 1920s, and he was benched for some fresh talent. Some unknown player by the name of Lou Gehrig came in and then never missed a game for 14 years. Now, Lou Gehrig's more known in his death for a horrible disease that is named in his honor, but that is, I guess a more contemporary reference would be Drew Bledsoe, right? Bledsoe got hurt in New England against the Jets, that famous Week 3 game in 2001. And a virtual unknown, even though he had played at Michigan, he was a part-time player at Michigan. Tom Brady came in, and at that time, Bill Belichick was 5-13 as coach of the Patriots. He was 8 games under 500. There were members of the Boston media that were calling for Belichick to be removed. Some thought that Belichick wouldn't make it through the 2001 season, and Tom Brady came in, and Bledsoe was gone. That was it. He was hurt, and the pixie dust kicked in, the Super Bowl, the whole thing, and now the Jags. Now, they're not winning the Super Bowl, but would you rather have Gardner Minshew based on what you've seen 3 games in and a quarterback rating of over 100 every game, or would you rather have Nick Foles? I have a feeling Foles is going to end up back in Philadelphia as a backup again. I think that's the only place he seems to play well is in Philly. I know it's a small sample size and we're overreacting, but that's part of the gig. But Gardner Minshew, He doesn't look like a cubic zirconia to me. This guy looks like the Hope Diamond soaring around the NFL right now. The onslaught of pinpoint passes. Gardner Minshew.
Never heard of
I
him.
got Minshew mania.